It's time for more top five films. This episode, we get nostalgic and we talk about the films of John Hughes. Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Enjoy the show.
There are things that date us really, really well, and being fascinated with John Hughes films is one of those things.
Yeah, it's a Gen X thing for sure, right? Because John Hughes owned the 80s as far as I'm concerned. I think there are times where I have memories from the 80s and they aren't actually my memories. They're just scenes from John Hughes movies.
I wish there's some scenes I wish were part of my memories.
Yeah, there's some Molly Ringwald stuff that I probably wish belonged in my own past. So here's the deal. John Hughes had a monster 10 to 15 years. He actually directed movies, I think, for basically about 20 years. And there was a certain point where I lost interest, and I'm not sure if it's because I matured or my taste changed or because he got worse. But if you go on Wikipedia, you can see his list, his filmography, and like the first dozen films are just favorites of mine and favorites of just about everybody I know. And then after that, there's movies that frankly, there's a few I don't think I ever even saw.
Yeah, I was looking at the list, and I agree with you. I don't want to jump into the list of films just yet. We will get there
Right.
soon. But the Home Alone stuff, really, I thought went downhill, and I
Hmm.
assume he was affiliated with all those. But one and two were great. I think three was probably okay. After that, it just like fell off, and it just seemed like trying to recapture the glory in a stale formula.
Yeah, and you always wonder with someone who's as creative as he is, whether it was just he ran out of things to say, or whether it had more to do that he was distracted by other things, because obviously, he was doing all kinds of things. The more popular he got, or the more famous he got, more recognized he got, he ended up, I think, producing a lot more than he ended up writing and directing. But those that first decade or so of films, I mean, his very first movie was National Lampoon's Class Reunion, which I remember watching and liking, but it doesn't hit, it's not going to make my top five, for example. But it was, talk about hitting the ground running. And he didn't direct that one; he wrote that one, and he also wrote Mr. Mom, which came out in 1983. He wrote Vacation, which came out in '83 as well, and it was after that. It was 1984 when he started directing and that's when for me those are the movies that really like are part of my the fabric of my childhood basically because 84 as we've said many times before was the year we both graduated from high school, so it was a lot of those movies felt kind of nostalgic even then back for the high school days because that's what he was writing a lot about was kids that were that high school age, just coming of age kind of stuff.
Yeah, back on his creativity, I read a bunch of quotes in preparation for this, a little segment called Loft of Wisdom. He talked a lot, or at least had quotes a lot about how creative he was. Like he talked about if he finished writing a film at 3 o'clock, on some afternoon, he'd be starting the next one at 3:02. He was just
Wow.
going, going, going. And then also that he hated when the films ended. Like it just having brought the cast together, the crew together, everyone, he just loved the whole experience of making movies. And he hated it so much that what he did is he like went right into a new movie. I mean, again, this is hyperbole, but it's that whole idea that there was probably this period, especially the one you just talked about, where he was cranking out quality movie after quality movie, and they were different at the time. I mean, there's a ton of movies that have and directors and producers that have copied him. But I don't
Hmm.
think people treated teenagers with as much respect and gave them as much. I don't know, such important roles, and treated even the angst and the geekiness and all that stuff with a level of respect that I don't think a lot of people did before him.
Yeah, probably, and I don't think they were using that term much back then. But the idea of agency that
Yeah.
before his movies, particularly the ones that he was writing and directing in the early '80s, I don't, kids were just comic relief,
Yeah.
or they were the thing at risk in a drama, and in a comedy they were just, there would be some one-liners maybe, but they weren't as important. At least in film, TV was probably different.
Yeah.
But for my top five, and we didn't really talk about rules when we get to top five. I only picked movies that he directed,
Mm.
as opposed to ones that he may have written but not directed. But most of the films on my top five list, he wrote and directed. I think there might be one that he didn't, that made my list. But those are the ones that he wrote and directed. I think really are those films that gave kids, adolescents anyway, real roles, and they got to you got to see these characters that were multidimensional. They weren't just a funny smartass or a dummy or whatever.
I'm checking myself now, my list against his.
Yeah, to be fair, I meant to text you and say, hey, by the way, I was thinking we would do this, because it kind of limits it too if it's ones he directed. Because for example, Vacation he wrote but he didn't direct, and it's that's one of my favorite movies and probably would make my top five if I were picking movies written and or directed by him, but I didn't for that reason. So yeah, take a quick sweep through your list. I'm guessing it
Yeah.
probably won't have much of an effect, truthfully.
Yeah, it's affecting one thing already. So.
I take that back. So, as far as his biography is concerned, he directed 30 films, starting with, as I said, the movie 16 Candles, which was in 1984. That was the first one he directed, at least according to Wikipedia. I'm sure there were some shorts or student films or what have you. But he wrote 8 of the films that he directed. And again, most of those 8 end up making my list. But as I was going through the list, just chronologically, I was like, here's where things kind of went south. He kind of sucked, after such and such a year, and then I realized that he actually died in 2009. So his productivity really fell off after 2009, in my opinion. And there is literally a movie in his list that I guess he was a producer of. Oh yeah, he contributed the story to a couple movies that, again, not a big fan. Made in Manhattan, which was '02, Drill Bit Taylor in '08, and Home Sweet Home Alone. I don't even know what the hell that is. That's 21. But he's credited as having a story credit in that, which I think means that he had ideas and somebody else wrote the script. And he certainly didn't direct them. To me, things really kind of peaked at Home Alone, which was in 1990. So really, for me, it's even less than 10 years. But in a 6-year period of time, he wrote and directed some of the most important films, for me, film-wise, ever.
All right, I quickly revamped my list. It did change it pretty significantly.
Did it really? Oh, I'm
Yeah,
sorry. Well, you can tell me. We can talk
yeah.
about
I'll
the other
tell.
ones you
We'll
like.
talk about it, but I'll follow the rules. I'm a rule follower every once in a
Yeah.
while.
Even if you only found out about the rules seconds ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the other thing about John Hughes movies that I thought was that he, like Tarantino, the Coen brothers, I thought he had this ensemble. I always think of the same people were in his movies over and over. And there are a handful of people that were in at least 2, but the most films that any single actor was in that were directed by John Hughes was Anthony Michael Hall, and it was only 3 movies. And for whatever reason, it feels like he and Molly Ringwald and John Candy were in like a dozen of them. You know what I mean? But they really were, and they were all in that period of time before 1990, where you've got a bunch of people that were in at least 2 movies. But it wasn't as overwhelming a troupe. Like I think of the Coen brothers. There's Francis McDormand is in
Yeah.
3/4 of their movies, or whatever the hell it is we counted before, and uh, uh, yeah, I feel like Wes Anderson kind of has the same thing with Owen Wilson and those guys. But Matthew Broderick was in Ferris Bueller's Day Off, and she's having a baby. Ferris Bueller's Day Off was 1986. I didn't even realize that John Hughes wrote and directed She's Having a Baby. And in fact, I'm not sure he wrote it. He did. He wrote and directed that one. John Candy was Uncle Buck in Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, which are classics. Molly Ringwald, if you'd asked me, I would have said, yeah, she's in every one of his movies.
I know I would have too. She was one. I was waiting for you to get to her name because she seemed like she was in every single one, and I'm shocked that she was only in what, two?
Two.
Or is it
She was in
three? Just
16
two. Yeah.
Candles in 84 and Breakfast Club in 85. So two movies in 2 years, and that's it. And it just goes to show you how many times we've watched those two movies, right? Because I just felt like she was in everything he ever did and practically every movie in the decade. So it turns out not as much as we thought. And then, as I said, Anthony Michael Hall was in three, so he's the leader. He was in 16 Candles and Breakfast Club. He was also in Weird Science. Both Weird Science and The Breakfast Club came out in 1985. So how's that for a year for
Yeah,
Hughes movies?
again, reiterating his talk about just producing one after another and high
Yeah,
quality too, because there's a lot of people that put out a lot of shit.
right,
Um,
for
in that
sure.
decade, he was not. All right, my top five is totally together there.
Cool,
So
cool. Shall we do a little top five John Hughes movies?
I'm going to start since I just revised it. Number five on my list, my original list, number five was Christmas Vacation. I love that movie, but he
Mm.
didn't direct it, so I follow rules. Right off the list, so it's easy to put it back on, was Weird Science. Weird Science was a weird little movie about, if I recall, they bring like a Barbie doll to life, and it was
Basically, like a mannequin. Yeah, it is
a
a doll, like
mannequin.
a little doll, right? I,
Yeah,
I, I can't remember how it started. I just remember everything after
exactly.
that.
And it was Kelly LeBrock, I think.
Oh,
Is that
it
her name?
was. It goddamn was Kelly LeBrock.
And I pulled that name out of I had because I didn't look that one up because it wasn't on my original list, but
You
it
may have
was
pulled it from somewhere else.
I didn't say what hat. But um it it was just a weird movie. I feel like unlike anything that I'd seen before, and I think at first I think it grew on me as well because it was so strange. But some of the scenes in there are just hilarious. The interaction between the teenage boys and Kelly LeBrock's character. It was fun. So I'm happy that I could actually pull it up into the top five.
Yeah, that was a classic Anthony Michael Hall role, right?
Yes.
That
Yeah.
was, and that's the thing is he was also in Vacation, of course, which has to be removed from our list because he didn't direct it, he only wrote it. But that must have been how he caught Hughes's eye, and that's how he ended up in three other movies because he was just he was just the funniest. He just had this physical humor. He's such a scrawny little punk. He was just
It
perfect
was.
for that role. I didn't Weird Science didn't make my list, but it was honorable mention for all the reasons you just said. It was a fun movie to watch, and I haven't rewatched it in a while. My guess is there may be many problematic things in that movie,
Yeah, probably.
but I bet you I would still enjoy it, and I know I would like to watch some 1985 Kelly LeBrock.
And I didn't go back and consider any problematic issues. I just pure memory because I haven't probably seen that movie in 20 years at least. So
Yeah, yeah. I have to admit, I didn't rewatch anything for this episode, but this was at least this one. I was pretty sure I would have a decent recollection of plot and
yeah,
actors and what have you. So my number five, and just so you know, I also had to make a recent adjustment to my list because I thought Vacation was written and directed by him. So I had Vacation as my number five, which is funny because it's also probably in my top 20 all-time movies, which just
yeah.
goes to show you how good John Hughes is. But he only wrote that movie; he didn't direct it. Is that right? Am I getting it right, or am I getting it backwards?
Yep.
Yeah,
No, I think he did not direct it. That's how
he did not direct it.
he didn't do any
Uh,
of the vacation ones, which I would think only Christmas and Vacation would qualify as quality movies. But
right, right. So he He did not direct it. So I did have to go back and readjust my own list, and that bumped my highest honorable mention up to number 5, which was Uncle Buck. Truthfully, that might even deserve to be higher, but here's the weird thing. I watched Uncle Buck maybe over the holidays, just this past year, and it was the first time I had ever watched that movie.
That's really
I,
funny because I didn't include it because I don't know if I've ever seen it all the way through.
yeah,
I've seen tons of funny funny or not previews,
and
whatever clips
clips,
from it.
yeah.
Yeah, but I don't think I've ever seen the whole one, and it was easy enough. I mean, I'm very proud of my top five, but I'd never seen it, so it's number 8. It would be number 8 on my list just because I haven't seen it.
What's to me is weird about not seeing it is that people were quoting Uncle Buck and talking about Uncle Buck. It came out in 1989, and I know when we were, that's roughly around the time where we were roommates off and on. It's when we were an undergrad, and I was in law school in St. Louis, and you were living and working there, through until what, like 92 or 93. And
Yeah.
people talked about Uncle Buck a lot. And I didn't see it in the theater, and I ended up not renting it. And I don't know why I was, in my head, I just, didn't want to see it. But in rewatching it, it's really good. And I know what prompted rewatching it is I watched, if you remember way back when we interviewed Tim Plaker, he recommended the documentary about John Candy. I
Yeah.
watched the documentary about him, and there were references and actors from Uncle Buck who, were talking glowingly about John Candy. I was like, you know what? I don't think I ever saw that movie. Or I think what I thought was, is I'm going to rewatch that movie. And I started it, and 10 minutes in, I'm like, I've never seen this movie. I have no idea what's going to happen next. And it was awesome. It was really, really good. So it might deserve to be a little bit higher, but I've literally only seen it once, and it wouldn't have made my list if I didn't realize that Vacation was not directed by John Hughes. So it sneaks in at number 5 for me.
Nice.
What's your number
You want to?
4?
I went with a John Candy movie, Planes, Trains, and Automobiles. That one I have seen multiple times. The combination of John Candy and Steve Martin is perfect humor. It's awkward and painful at times, but it's hilarious when everything's said and done. And that's a character. It's a type of character that John Candy perfected. I mean, starting with very different because he's the Wisconsin waltz band or whatever, but in trying to get the mom home in Home Alone, John Candy was hilarious in that one too. But Steve Martin is perfectly uptight in this one all the way through, and it's a funny buddy movie where they hate each other in the beginning, and at the end, it brings them all together. So I love that movie.
Yeah, I do too. In fact, I love it a little bit more than you love it. It's a little higher on my list. And it's interesting, having just talked about Uncle Buck, though two completely different characters.
Yeah,
Although the surface character of Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, frankly, feels a lot like the Uncle Buck character. But what he reveals as you go through the movie, particularly when you get to the final scenes of that
right.
movie, is
Yeah,
just so kind of heart wrenching to
yeah,
he was really good. He was one of those guys that I didn't appreciate enough when he was alive and actually making movies. I thought he was very slapsticky, and he actually
yeah.
was a really talented comedic actor for sure. So I
Yeah,
think
the
that's
depth
a
of his
good call.
yeah, the depth of his acting is often overlooked, and
Yeah.
this one is a perfect example of that because it's very subtle. I mean, in a lesser actor's hand, it could have been a much worse movie. I thought he did great.
Yeah, I am one of those people who didn't give him enough credit for sure.
Yeah,
So for me, number 4 is 16 Candles, which came out in 1985. There's so many lines that we quote to this day, 45 years later, 35 years later, I guess. Uh, it had all of those people you think of as ensemble people for John Hughes. It's so much a coming of age movie. And Molly Ringwald she's just outstanding in that film, as is Anthony Michael Hall. It's just funny, and it's touching. And what's crazy to me is when you look through his filmography, 2 other movies that he wrote. and one of them he directed came out in the same year in 1985. So European Vacation came out in 85, and Weird Science also came out in 1985. So two movies he directed that are on your list. It's just insane. As we said, that mid 80s period was phenomenal for him. So that is my number four.
Yeah, and some of my favorite lines are probably problematic these days. Long Duck Dong's character was hilarious, but
Yes, yes.
probably not too PC these days.
No,
Um,
no. At least it was an Asian man playing the character as opposed
yeah,
to, it could be worse, I guess, but yeah, it's very. Although even that, I mean, he turns out to be like kind of a heroic character in his
yeah.
side character way, but yeah, it's a little wincy when you watch that.
Well, it doesn't stop me from saying what's happening, hot stuff.
Again, I probably say that a handful of times every year, and nobody, at least nobody in my house knows what I'm talking about.
Moving on to my number three is nice and easy, 16 Candles. So I think you've
Ah,
summed it up about as well as needs to be. Great movie. I was not as enamored with Molly Ringwald as you are or were. Not that I didn't like her, but I think she's at a different level for you. But she was
yeah,
great in this movie. She was perfect. Like even early stuff like lines like I can't believe they fucking forgot my birthday or whatever. I mean, she's
yeah,
just she's a great comedic actress in this one. I do love this movie,
yeah.
which
It's
shows how
great.
good his stuff is because it's only third on my list.
Yeah, exactly, exactly. That's the feeling I had going all the way through this. And my number three is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
Yeah,
For all the reasons we just talked about, we didn't mention, but Steve Martin. It's kind of a prototypical or stereotypical maybe Steve Martin role. He's the straight man for sure.
yeah,
But when he loses his shit, it's some of the funniest parts of that movie. I mean, as funny as John Candy is, his character, at least initially, is just kind of over the top and what have you. Steve Martin is this buttoned up ad executive, and when he loses his mind at the airport camp counter, oh my God, it is so funny. There will never be anything funnier to me than where's your arm? It's between two pillows. Those are pillows. The two of them jumping out of bed and hey, how about those Bears? How about those Bears this year? It's so funny. And again, probably not PC, but still funny. And I think you could still pull that scene off today as long as it was those two guys doing it. But yeah, it's just a classic movie. So that was my number three is Planes, Trains, and Automobiles.
All right. I'm curious as if our top two is the same. My number two is Ferris Bueller's Day Off. Uh, I was waiting for you to say something, but
No,
just a fun. I mean, talk about quotable and Matthew Broderick. It essentially made him. I mean, his presence on the scene on the screen all the time. He just stole every scene. I don't even know if it was great acting, but it was such great presence all the way through that entire movie. Is it what's her name? Mia. What's
she
shit.
didn't do a whole lot of anything else, right?
She didn't. And then his dorky buddy did do a lot more afterwards. I
Yeah.
can't remember his name either, but just a great movie. Another cool concept. Lines that we all quote: Bueller, Bueller, anyone. Even that guy was in a ton of movies afterwards, essentially playing the exact same character, and then commercials. Was that Ben?
Ben
Uh,
Stein, who did that game
Einstein.
show on MTV
Yeah,
too. Like
exactly. He did.
he, I think that movie got him that game show role, which kind of
Yeah.
exploded. It was Mia Sara was her name,
Mia
who
Sara.
played Sloane. She was so pretty in that movie. Like again, our age and watching those. She was
Yes.
in it. Jennifer Grey was in it. That was a really fun cast for sure. All right, so here's the thing. I also picked Ferris Bueller as my number two, but I think that Ferris is a dick. And it's definitely why I didn't pick him for number one. And I think I ended up choosing him for number two almost based on just sheer volume because I have watched Ferris Bueller's Day Off more than any of the films that are below it on my list. And I'm not sure that's the best reason to pick somebody as number two on your list because, again, having only seen Uncle Buck once, Uncle Buck probably comes ahead of Ferris Bueller for me. Planes, Trains, and Automobiles, I watch it every year like a lot of people do now around Thanksgiving. And the more I watch it, the more I appreciate John Candy, the more I appreciate that Steve Martin relationship. It maybe should be numbered. These all maybe should be shifted up, and Ferris Bueller maybe shouldn't be as high on my list, except for the fact that, with the exception of the movie I'm sure both picked for number one, I've watched it more than maybe any other movie ever, but certainly than any other John Hughes movie, except for number one on my list. So in terms of volume, I just thought that character was just kind of manipulative. Not kind of manipulative. That was the whole point. Was he was manipulative. On the other hand, the Chicago stuff is awesome. The parade and the
Yep.
dance
Yep.
and all of that stuff. And I quote lines from Ferris Bueller as much or more as any movie ever. So it is also my number two. And it's one of the few movies where I really kind of dislike the main character, but still end up watching the movie, over and over again.
Yeah, I wonder if I went back and watched it, if I'd agree with you, because I've had moments in my life when I've been a dick, for long stretches, and people
Name
can.
one.
It's hard to just name one. So, but I haven't seen it in a long time, and whatever people think of me, I've gone, I've made a purposeful decision to stop, you know, trying to be not being a dick. Let's just go with that. So I wonder if I went back, if I'd feel similar to you, because if you think about it, he was manipulative. We laughed at it at the
Hmm.
time, but if I were to go back, I bet I would. I don't know if I'm with you. I don't know if I would lower the movie. It would still be a top five for me because
Yeah, it
it's
has to be for
hilarious.
sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was groundbreaking in a lot of ways. Like, I don't know, there was a stuff that you hadn't seen in movies before that was entertaining. I mean, it was good.
Well, yeah. Here's a thing that I thought about with that movie. You talk about groundbreaking and just a movie that was iconic for so many filmmakers. I think uh, as far as I'm concerned, it didn't invent the post-credit scene because I think
Right.
the Smokey and the Bandit movies, like
Yeah,
those Burt Reynolds
yeah.
movies, did that kind of stuff. But there's this long after, like it's long. They would run that over the credits back with the Smokey and the Bandit and Smokey and the Bandit 2, but with Ferris Bueller, they started running credits, and as you were leaving the theater, all of a sudden he came back on the screen. And so, like the Marvel movies owe him a debt because that's what they always do. And I think there's a lot of stuff. There are a lot of scenes in Ferris Bueller that get lifted and put into other movies as an homage. Like they'll basically almost recreate the scene. Or he just did a lot of interesting stuff with that character, with the writing. His kind of arrogance and manipulative nature works for that movie. I mean, it's the only way that movie actually does work. And I mean, he went to a North Shore high school, so I don't have a problem seeing characters like that come out of those schools. Former guest Phil Shelton may not be happy about my saying that, since he attended one of those schools. In fact, I think he might have attended the school that most of these movies were based on, because he went to New Trier High School, and New Trier and Evanston High School are two giant rival high schools up on the North Shore, and I'm pretty sure that was the basis for a lot of his high school based movies. He uses high school based movies. So sorry, Phil, but I could see Ferris Bueller coming out of New Trier. Is all I'm saying.
Well, there's not a lot of drama behind our number one choice, I don't think, unless you totally surprise me. But I think Breakfast Club is easily his best and one of the best movies ever made, I believe. Um, and I'm going to let you talk a little bit more about it because you are our film aficionado. But I think what's interesting about the movie, particularly, is it came out in '85, so we were right out of high school. I was a jock, so I wanted to cheer for Emilio Estevez's character, but he was a dick through most of it. Uh, I mean, I think the thing about the movie is that they all come together in some way when it's all said and done. But there's
Hmm.
so much, tension and infighting, and it captures all the various stereotypes that we all probably met in high school, and all the characters that I didn't want to cheer for because I was, still young and figuring myself out. You ended up cheering for, like, even Anthony Michael Hall's character. I mean, he's a little more likable, but like, is it Ali Sheedy? I mean, her character was
Hmm.
so weird and just bizarre and you at the time, you didn't embrace those types of people because I think there's this whole pressure, especially in high school, to be so normal. And this movie captures all that in a very creative and entertaining way. And it it has the ability to open your eyes if you're willing to watch. And especially at that age for me, I was definitely into the stereotypes of, I don't like the dorks and the weird, goth chicks. And but I did like Molly Ringwald in this one. I will say
Yes, for sure.
that.
Although, again, 10 years later, the Ali Sheedy character was the one I'm like,
Yes, exactly. I
that's
know.
interesting.
That's what I mean.
Yeah,
You go back and watch it at different points in your life, and you have a different starting point for all those
yeah.
characters.
And you're right. Breakfast Club was my choice as well. Uh, it it's the movie of our generation. There's no doubt that any Gen Xer is going to point to that as a movie that helped kind of encapsulate what high school was like for them growing up. I mean, I don't know that I have much to add to what you said because the draw, that brings you into that movie is hey, I recognize all of these archetypes.
Yep.
I recognize the jock, or in our case, I think both of us probably had to identify with the jock, character. But you remembered the kind of rich kids, and you knew that those the Ringwald wing of high school and the jocks kind of intermingled, even if some of the jocks didn't have cash, that kind of thing,
Right.
because there was a popularity ranking. I mean, Molly Ringwald's breaking that down, her character breaking all that stuff down in the movie is just it's heartbreaking, especially when she's talking to Anthony Michael Hall's character about the fact that he's just never going to be in their
Yeah.
clique. Um, but it just did such a great job of showing that there it was no normal, to speak of. Everybody just was trying to exist and trying to figure their way out. And what a wonderful movie! I agree with you. It's one of my top movies of all time. It's certainly my favorite John Hughes movie, and it is a film that I rewatch, every year or two. And it does. It brings you. You have a different takeaway almost every time you see that movie.
And I think I'm jumping ahead. Folks who listen to us regularly know that we do a playlist for every episode. The biggest surprise will be the most iconic song from his movies isn't going to make our playlist. Don't You Forget About Me.
Yeah, although
It was a
you
little too
have sung
obvious
it
for me.
recently in
I
past episodes,
have.
or at
Yeah,
least
I won't ruin this episode by trying to sing it again, but just even the way I read a great quote also from John Hughes about how he loved to like essentially blare the music in his films, even if it sometimes obscured the dialogue of his characters, because I mean, music was such a big part of his stuff and his whole approach.
yeah,
He says multiple times, if he could have been a musician, he would have been. He just didn't have the talent. And I say that about a lot of stuff that's creativity based.
yeah, me too.
Um, but yeah, that song itself, when it breaks into the movie, is just it's just a great scene.
Yeah, I'm just looking through his list of movies that he directed, and I will admit, and we talked a little off air that maybe I regret not allowing us to pick movies that he was only the writer on because it opened up the list so much, and I think our list would have been much different if we included movies that he wrote but did not direct. But as I said earlier, there are 8 movies that he directed. Neither of us listed Curly Sue for good reason. Uh, she's having a baby, which I did enjoy, but
I
definitely
did too, yeah.
wouldn't make that list. And then who else are we missing?
One of my favorite movies of all time, one of my favorite comedic movies. It's uneven, but has some of the funniest moments. Is Mr. Mom, which he didn't direct.
Yeah,
Uh, I think he wrote it, but I wanted to at least get that in there because that was my number 4 movie originally. Michael
yeah,
Keaton is It's just hilarious in the show.
That is a
It
great movie.
it is.
Yeah, I was the same way, and I had the movie that would have thrown off our list, I think, quite a bit, and maybe avoided ties because we have a couple ties, as is usually the case, is Pretty in Pink, which he wrote but did not direct.
Yep.
And
Yep.
going into this, like Vacation, I actually thought he wrote and directed this one, and I think that would have thrown our list kind of up in the air as well, because frankly, it's probably, in my top two or three of movies that he had a hand in. I love that movie so much. It's to me, it's very much, it's like just a grittier version of The Breakfast Club, maybe. But I just thought the acting was so good in that film, and
Yeah.
again, Molly Ringwald, but she's just fantastic in it. But again, we based on the rules we used or that I imposed, probably unfortunately on this list, we are going to end up with some ties as we normally seem to do.
Yeah.
So check my math on this, but it very easily Breakfast Club number one was number one on both our lists. Ferris Bueller was number two on both our lists. I show a tie for third with Planes, Trains, and Automobiles and 16 Candles. And then a tie for fourth is Weird Science and Uncle Buck.
Yep.
And then the tie for fifth, I guess, would be all the movies that didn't get on our list at all. So we really end up with six movies in our top five list for four places. So I don't know. Maybe we'll redo this one in a couple of years, and we'll add his writing credits as well as his directing credits.
Yeah, and my list changed significantly. The other one that wasn't mentioned, and it's grown on me over the years, is Home Alone. We referenced it in a recent episode we did about Die Hard movies,
Yeah, that's right.
how that was basically a kid's version of Die Hard. And it's got some really funny scenes and funny actors. Joe Pesci's awesome in that one, as one of the bad guys, as is Daniel Sturm. What's the dude's name? The tall
Yeah,
guy.
Dennis Stern. Yeah,
Yeah,
he was.
he had a
Yeah,
moment there, and he was in a bunch of stuff, and then he dropped off. I don't. I guess I should look and see. Hopefully, it didn't drop off for the same reason that John Hughes did. So
no, I don't think so. I think he's
yeah, I
still
haven't seen
kicking
him in
around.
anything in a while though.
So anyway, that is the third song in top five John Hughes movies. We would love it if you would email us at thirdsongin@gmail.com. Give us your comments, your thoughts about our list, our rankings, where you think those movies ought to be. If you don't agree with us, please drop us a line.
Yes, we welcome any feedback, good or bad. All right, that's going to take us to the next segment of the show, staff picks.
Yep, so we got a little twist for staff picks this week. Usually Chris and I make a recommendation of something that's on the horizon or that just came out that we're really excited about. We're going to take a break and turn our staff picks over to friend of the show, former guest Mike Trizna, proprietor of the Chicago Street Pub in Joliet, Illinois. Triz has been kind enough to provide us with his thoughts about a different type of staff pick.
Just around the corner from you.
Hi, this is Mike Trizna, and I'm going to be doing some staff picks today, but a little bit different. I'm going to try something that I've never done before. So I'm going to talk about double feature etiquette. I've become weirdly obsessed with the art of the double feature lately. Not just watching the movies, but pairing them correctly. Because, there's the categories and stuff that you have to do these things in. So first you've got the obvious move, original movie plus sequel. That's the safe play. Like Back to the Future 1 and 2, Aliens. Everybody's happy. Everybody knows what they're getting into. Then there's my favorite category, what I call twins. Hollywood does this thing where two studios accidentally release pretty much the same movie and the same time, like Deep Impact, Armageddon. They've done it with tons of movies. In the late 90s, apparently they were really worried about stuff hitting Earth, and they also didn't have very many original ideas. You can get artistic with it. You can do like Shaun of the Dead. You can do Dawn of the Dead, funny and not so funny. And then you can pick a movie. You can pick an actor, like maybe Robin Williams doing Mrs. Doubtfire and 1 Hour Photo. Completely separate. I don't even know he's the same guy, not just because he's dressed up. As we get towards the end of this, my personal favorite, this is just weird. This is Goodfellas and My Blue Heaven, because Henry Hill is the guy they based both movies off of. Basically, My Blue Heaven is a comedic take on what happened after Goodfellas was done. It's it's weird. You got to try it. So you have to remember one more thing: food matters. Appetizer before, eat heavy in the middle or towards the end, so you're not comatose for the last one. And remember one more thing: a double feature isn't just about watching the movies. It's about having a tiny little film festival in your room with some good food and some good friends.
Mike Trisna is a former guest of Third Song Inn and the proprietor of Chicago Street Pub in Joliet, Illinois. You can find a list of events, food menus, happy hour, and specials information all at chicagost.com. Thanks, Mike. So our next segment is Loft of Wisdom.
You better open up your eyes, babe, because fools do get wise.
Loft of wisdom, when it all boils down to what it is. Stupid fucking comment.
I don't know. I didn't think it was so bad.
It is what it is. Boils down to what it is.
We are what we are.
I am what I am, and that's all that I am.
Is that your quote for Loft of Wisdom?
Yes.
I am what I am, and that's all that
I should make that my quote. All right, Loft of Wisdom is pretty much quotes. Tom and I had lofts in college, and we would scribble down quotes that excited us or just seemed to have some meaning, and we've taken that concept and moved it to the podcast and to our website, where all of our Loft of Wisdom quotes now live. I'm going to go ahead and start because it gives me a chance to give a reference to what would have been fifth on my list, the movie Christmas Vacation. One of my favorite holiday movies, Chevy Chase and everyone else. Just a great movie as far as I'm concerned.
Mm-hmm.
I like it as much as the original, if not more. But one of my favorite scenes of all times is Cousin Eddie standing out in the yard, draining his toilets from his camper, yelling, "Merry Christmas! Shitter was full."
That was great delivery. Maybe you are an actor. That was really good.
So that's going on the Loft. I'm not saying it has a lot of meaning, but it's funny as hell.
You got me, that's for sure. My quote for the Loft of Wisdom this week comes directly from our number one John Hughes movie, The Breakfast Club. It is the character John Bender, played by Judd Nelson. It comes from the scene where they were blocking open the door. They took the screw out so the door would shut, and the vice principal dude couldn't see in where they were all sitting. All the students were sitting for detention. And he was trying to block it open with something at a certain point. But it's a very physically comedic scene. But at one point, the vice principal accuses Bender of taking the screw out that lets the door stay open. And Bender's response is, "Screws fall out all the time. The world's an imperfect place." And he had a bunch of great lines in that movie, but that probably is my favorite, and I do think that it is very fitting for the Loft of Wisdom.
It's a good way to end we still have the playlist picks, but the quote is a good way to wrap up our discussion of the John Hughes movies. But that's not the end. We still have our playlist picks.
We do. Every week, Chris and I each select a single song to put on our season-long playlist. And this week, we both picked songs that relate somehow or other to John Hughes and his films.
Yeah, and I'm going to let you go second. You corrected me in a previous episode because I used this as a staff pick, the song Holiday Roads, which I think I said was in Christmas Vacation. In fact, it was in Vacation. And the original in that movie is recorded and released by Lindsey Buckingham of Fleetwood Mac. I'm going with the cover of the song because I like to give this band as much attention as possible. In the last year, the band Roadside Graves released a cover version of Holiday Roads, and so I'm going to put it on our playlist. It's a good version. They're a good band, and it makes me think of The movie Vacation actually makes me think of the movie Christmas Vacation, even if it's not really in it.
And by the way, one more correction. Holiday
Yep.
Road.
Holiday Road. Do I do that all the time? I do.
I don't know. You did this time. My song for the playlist this week is not a cover. I actually looked around, and there are some really good bands that have done covers of this song, but I have to say, from the film Pretty in Pink, which was written by John Hughes, the Psychedelic Furs song Pretty in Pink, which is, I think, how they end the movie, is really good. I'm not a giant Psychedelic Furs fan. That kind of new wave stuff that was very popular in the early 80s didn't really hit me the way it hit a lot of other people. But that song and their version, which is the original version of that song, which came from, originally it was from Talk, Talk, Talk in 1981, and then it was on the soundtrack in 1986. I probably didn't even know about the song until 86, and I just love it. You know, Social Distortion did a cover of it, and that's a great band. That's a band I like more than the Psychedelic Furs, but I think the Furs need they need a nod from Third Song In for just the perfect song for that film.
Yeah,
So,
I agree.
Third Song In is recorded in Chapel Hill, North Carolina, and Joliet, Illinois. You can email us your questions, your comments, and your suggestions to thirdsongin@gmail.com. In particular, I'd like to hear about your top 5 John Hughes films. I think we'd also like to hear not only your favorite ones that were directed by him, but films that he had a hand in, particularly as a writer, if not a writer-director.
We'd also ask you to check out our website, thirdsonginpodcast.com. All kinds of stuff on there, direct links to our weekly blogs, also direct links to these episodes. For this episode in particular, I'd say check out the episode Spotlight, where we put a little video clip. Tom and I will be battling it out for which favorite John Hughes movie clip we add to the website for this one.
Please follow us wherever you listen to your podcast. We are on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, and YouTube Music. We're on Pandora. We're on Overcast. As far as I know, every one of those platforms will let you rate us on their site. Give us your fucking stars. We want all of your stars. Don't give us a star. I don't want to hear about a single star or even a double star. Give us 5 stars, will you? In fact, if you can give us more stars, give us more stars. And have your friends give us stars. And have their friends give us stars. Let's Brady Bunch this motherfucker.
We've been doing this for like a lot of episodes. I laugh every single fucking time you do that. There's times where I'm like, yeah. And then you take it to another level and I just laugh. And I still haven't come up with a tagline for my playlist one, so just share our fucking playlists. They're out there.
Share them. Just share them.
We just added 2 more songs to season 13 of Third Song In. We have guest playlists out there. You can find all of them by searching for Third Song In, or, especially on Spotify, search for T. Polachek. That fucker wants his name associated with everything that we do.
Yeah, you can tell that when we started this podcast, we really didn't think it was going to go for very long. Please follow us on social media. We have a Facebook page. We have an Instagram account. We have Blue Sky. Those are great places to go to find out what our guests and friends of the show are doing. So please find us under Third Song In, wherever you get your social media needs met.
Find us on Substack too. I'm loving that app, subscribing to various bloggers. And yeah, so just go to Substack, subscribe to Third Song In. You'll get our blogs in your inbox every Friday morning.
You've been listening to Third Song In with Chris Derrickson and Tom Polachek. Thank you for listening.
Why don't we do this episode, sort of get into a flow? Because I'm afraid of the choppiness and then trying to get into a flow.
All right. I feel like I'm really in a flow right now. Do I sound like I'm in a flow?
You're in a serious flow.
Welcome to Third Song In with Chris Draxon. There's a flow for you right there, motherfucker. But I distracted myself because I wrote about the films of John Hughes. That's a whole different film festival.
Don't forget about us, man. Don't you forget about
Forget
us.
about me. Us.
I am what I am, and that's all that I am.